day everyone, good day ma'am. So you're with me, Mr. Novo Bokingo from evening session. And now I am here sharing my learnings starting from our chapter 3 to chapter 7 discussion for our finals. In this chapter, we tackle about the phonetics and phonology. So as we've discussed, the phonetics comes from the word phone, which means sound, tics, which means scientific or systematic study of something. In other words, phonetics means scientific study of human speech. Furthermore, phonetics is a general study of all human speech sounds and how they are produced, transmitted, and received. Next is phonology. So, phonology is a broader study of major speech sounds in the organization in a particular language. It is also the study of the sound system of a particular human languages, including the dialects and other language varieties. Phonemes. A phoneme is a unit of sound in speech. A phoneme doesn't have any inherent meaning by itself, but when you put phonemes together, they can make words. Think of when adults try to get a baby to say his or her first words. They often cause him or her to sound out the beginning of a word by repeating that sound or phoneme over and over by saying something like.
We have three branches of phonetics. The first one is the articulatory phonetics. It is concerned with the positions and movements of the lips, tongue, and other speech organs in producing speech. It analyzes how the various speech sounds are articulated by vocal organs. Second is the acoustic phonetics. This branch of phonetics is concerned with the properties of sound waves. It studies the physical properties of speech sounds as transmitted between the mouth and ear. Auditory phonetics. Auditory phonetics is the study of hearing and the perception of speech sounds. So in IPA, in the International Phonetic Alphabet, so we have 5 words. We have 5 example words here. The hungry. So in IPA, it spells like this: hungry. Another one is one. Crush, summer, day. So in IPA, it spells like this.
Phonetic similarity. Phonetically similar segments are two or more sounds which are phonetic features and frequently sound as variants of a single phonological unit in a language. Most phonetically similar segments are adjacent to each other in a phone chart and differ only slightly in one or two articulatory features. Allophones are a kind of phoneme that changes its sound based on how a word is spelled. Think of the letter T, and what kind of sound it makes in the word tar, compared with stuff. It's pronounced with a more forceful, clipped sound in the first example than it is in the second. Symmetrical patterning. Phonological symmetry is the even distribution of phonemes throughout the articulatory possibilities of a given language. The inventory of sounds in a given language tends to be symmetrical. Sounds tend to be spread out evenly throughout the articulatory possibilities of a language.
We have phonetically similar segments. Under is the p and b. Differ in voicing. The p and f, place of articulation and manner of articulation. The l and r differ in manner of articulation. The p and t differ only in place of articulation. In symmetrical patterning, we have a table here. The front rounded, back rounded. We have the closed, mid, open. In the vowel e, your mouth is closed. the vowel e, your mouth is closed mid, it is open a little, and then the your mouth is obviously open. While the u and the u is closed, your mouth is closed, and the o, your mouth is open slightly. Phonemic system is the system of phonemes recognized in language, a set of linguistic units which forms the basis for higher levels of language structure. Knowledge of the system develops in the child during the language learning period and is normally accompanied by development of the capacity for differentiating articulation. In phonology and linguistics, it is a unit of sound that distinguishes one word from another in a particular language. Example for that is the word sing. It has different pronunciation. Sin or the sing in the IPA in most dialects of English, with the notable exceptions of the West Midlands and the Northwest of England. This sound pattern are two different separate words that are distinguished by the substitution of one phoneme, the n, for another phoneme on the n. Types of phonemic system. First is the consonant system, the system of consonant used in a particular language. Second is the vocalism or vowel system, the system of vowels used in a particular language. Last is the language system, system of linguistic units or elements used in a particular language. Morphology. Morphology comes from the word morph, which means form, ology, science of. So morphology is the science of word forms, the study of the internal structure of words, and the rules by which words are formed. Morphemes. A morpheme is the minimal unit of meaning, the smallest meaningful unit in language. We have two different types of morphemes. The first one is the free morpheme and the second one is the bound morpheme. Free morpheme is a morpheme that can stand alone as individual words. Example for that is the cat, vital, and loved. We have two types of free morphemes. The first one is the lexical morpheme and the second one is the functional morpheme. Lexical morphemes are free morphemes that carry the content of our utterances. It is also an open class. Under the lexical morphemes is the noun, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. The second one, functional morphemes, on the other hand, is the free morphemes that serve a more grammatical role, connecting words together within and across sentences. It is a closed class. Under the functional morphemes are the prepositions, conjunctions. Bound morphemes are morphemes that cannot stand alone as individual words. Bound morphemes are prefix, suffixes, infixes, circumfixes. In free morphemes, we also have two types. The lexical morphemes, which are morphemes that carry the content of our utterances. It is also considered as an open class. Lexical morphemes under it the nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Functional morphemes is free morphemes that serve a more grammatical role, connecting words together within and across sentences. It is a closed class. Functional morphemes, it is under prepositions, conjunctions, and articles. We also have two types of bound morphemes, the derivational morphemes and inflectional morphemes. Derivational morphemes are bound morphemes that helps to create new words and can change the lexical category of a word. Consider these affixes, the pre, an, adjunctive, er, full. So example of derivational morphemes is the word determine. We can add the word affixes, the pre. So pre plus determine predetermined. So we can create a new word and change its lexical category of a word. So a different word from determine is predetermined. So inflectional morphemes. Inflectional morphemes is a morpheme that cannot create new words in a language or change the lexical category of a word in a language. So bound morphemes that serve a grammatical role in language. So inflectional morphemes in English are plural est, possessive est, third personal singular, id, ing, the ing, the present participle, and past participle, ir, comparative, ist, superlative. I have an example here for morphemic cutting, which is unreadable. So cutting a morpheme, we have to find the root word first. So root word for unreadable is the read. So we have to cut from the read from an and able. So first we have to identify what is an an. An is a prefix. Read is a verb and able is a adjectives. An means not. Read is means able to interpret something or able to interpret something. Then able is capable. So if you make a sentence with this word, it can create. So not capable to interpret. We have another example here, which is the word regain. So to cut a morpheme, we have to look for its root word. So the root word for regain is the word gain. So we have to cut from re and gain, in between the re and gain. So we have to cut it there. And then we have to identify what is the meaning of re. So re is considered as repeat, redo, or again. Gain is also called as obtain, means obtain. So if we have to make it in a sentence, regain means to obtain again, So that is the word regain. So that is our example for our morphemic cutting. So we have morpheme and allomorph relationship. So morpheme is the smallest unit of a word which has a meaning, lexical or grammatical, and cannot be divided into smaller units. Example, for instance, the word unpresentable consists of three morphemes: the un, the present, and the able. Allomorphs, on the other hand, are different realizations of one morpheme. For example, the words cats, dogs, and buses all contain a plural morpheme, and we can deduce that the pluralizing morphemes s and s, the es, have three different potential pronunciations: the s, the z, and is. We call these allomorphs because they represent different pronunciation potentials of the same morphemes. The plural morphemes, and one plural morpheme has one morph, the s, while the other has two morphs, the es. So the relationship between morphemes and allomorphs is that morphemes are the parts of words such as prefixes, suffixes, and roots, while allomorph is a morpheme that varies in sound while retaining the same spelling. Thus, the relationship is that morphemes provide the word that has meaning itself, while allomorph is the sound or pronunciation of the given morph. What is affixes? An affix is a set of letters generally added to the beginning or end of a root word to modify its meaning. The root is the portion of the word that remains when all prefixes and suffixes have been removed. Typically, they can stand alone. Prefixes are letters which we add to the beginning of a word to make a new word with a different meaning. Prefixes can, for example, create a new word opposite in meaning to the word the prefix is attached to. So for better understanding, we have an example here. Suffix. A suffix is a letter or a group of letters attached to the end of a word to form a new word, as well as to alter the way it functions grammatically in a sentence. Okay, for more understanding, we have example of suffix list here. Infix. An infix is a word element, a type of affix that can be inserted within the base form of a word rather than at its beginning or end to create a new word or intensify meaning. The process of inserting an infix is called infixation. Okay, circumfix. A circumfix is an affix made up of two separate parts which surround and attach to a root or stem. The morphological process whereby this is achieved is called circumfixation. And for more understanding, we have an example of circumfixation here. Inflection. Inflection refers to a process of word formation in which items are added to the base form of a word to express grammatical meanings. The word inflection comes from the Latin inflector, meaning to bend. Inflection, a letter or group of letters at the end of a word serving a grammatical function, they are always suffixes, that is, are inflection. Examples of purpose indicating a word is plural. Paper plus s is equals to papers. Pony plus ies is equals to ponies. Indicating a word is possessive. Henry plus asterisk s equals Henrys. Indicating the present tense verb is third personal singular. Walk plus s equals to walks. Go plus es is equals to ghost. Indicating a verb is past tense. Walk plus ed is equals to walked. Indicating an adjective is comparative or superlative, which is strong plus er is equals to stronger. Strong plus est is equals to strongest. Derivation, on the other hand, in morphology is the process of creating a new word out of an old word, usually by adding a prefix or a suffix. The word comes from the Latin to draw off, and its adjectival form is derivational. Examples of English derivational patterns and their suffixes is we have here. I can give you the examples in this picture. Idioms. Idioms is a fixed group of words with a special meaning, which is different from the meaning of the individual word. We have examples of idioms about nature. A shrinking violet, a shy person, many moons ago, a very long time ago, cat's no eyes, doesn't have any effect or influence. On cloud 9, very happy, once in a blue moon, very rarely. Calm before the storm, unusual or false quiet period before a period of. Idioms. Sometimes the meaning of an idiom can be guessed from the meaning of one of the word. Example for that is to rack your brain means to think hard, something to do with brains. To live a lap of luxury means to live to a very luxurious way. So there are some common English idioms and you can see it down here. So idioms also is usually, however, the meaning of an idiom is completely different from any of the separate word. Example is, she was over the moon about her new job means she was extremely happy. The exam was piece of cake means the exam was very easy. There are a lot of idioms, and sometimes the expression has two meanings. One is literal and one idiomatic. This happens most often when idiomatic expression is based in physical image. Example is, it's raining cats and dogs. In literal meaning, it's raining, obviously cats and dogs, but in idiomatic expression, it is raining hard, raining hard. Chapter 7, Constituents. Constituent in grammar defined as the structural pieces of sentence, phrase or clause, or it is a group of words that works together to make the sentence meaningful. Constituents can be phrase, words or morphemes. Every sentence and every phrase and clause has constituents. That is to say, every sentence is made up of other things that work together to make the sentence meaningful. In constituents, we have noun phrase and verb phrase. So noun phrase is made up of a noun and its modifier. Modifier that comes before the noun, possessive pronoun, adjectives or participle. Modifiers that after included prepositional phrases, adjective clauses, and participle phrases. Verb phrase, on the other hand, is made up of verb and its dependent objects, complements, and modifiers. Each phrases of the sentence can be broken down into its constituents. Simple sentence. A simple sentence has one subject and one predicate. Compound sentence. A compound sentence has more than one part that can stand alone, or what we call independent clauses. Independent clauses are connected by coordinating conjunctions, conjunctive, adverbs, or a semicolon. Complex sentence. A complex sentence has at least two parts, one that can stand alone and another one that cannot. The part that cannot stand alone is linked to the rest of the sentence by a subordinating conjunction. Compound complex sentence. This type of sentence has more than one part that can stand alone and at least one that cannot. Immediate constituent analysis. So IC analysis is a system of grammatical analysis that divides sentences into successive layers or constituents until in the final layer. IC analysis describing a sentence up into its immediate constituents by using binary cutting, obtaining its own ultimate constituents. It is designed to show how small constituents in a sentence combine to form larger constituents. IC analysis is a very important tool for syntactically analysis. The technique applies that the sentence must be analyzed into immediate constituents, actor, and action. The construction inside the immediate constituents must be further analyzed until the final constituents are reached, that is a word. There are also advantages and limitations of IC analysis. So the advantages of IC analysis is layers of relationship in a sentence can be graphically displayed by analyzing it into its units. For example, the phrase, "the pen on the table that belongs to me," the ambiguity can be resolved through IC analysis. Limitations of IC analysis. First is, IC analysis cannot account for constructional homonym. Example, the phrase "hunting dogs." Ambiguity may be lexical, constructional, or derivational. Lexical ambiguity arises from the same word having more than one meaning. Example, the word bank. Constructional ambiguity is due to difference in layering the phrase "old men" and "women." Derivational ambiguity arises from the same constituents functioning differently. Example, the phrase "the love of God." Types of constituent. We have the modifiers, predications, complementation, subordination, and coordination. First example in constituents is, we have a sentence here which is, "My sister buys a book." So in constituents, we need to identify first which one in the sentence is the subject and the predicate. So what is a subject? Subject is the one doing the action, while predicate is describing what the subject is doing. In our sentence, my sister buys a book, we need to break down first who is making the action. So it is obviously the sister is doing the action. So between sister and buys, we have to break the sentence. So we have my sister, the subject, and buys a book, the predicate. So in a one bracket, a one branch, so we have my sister. So sister is a noun, but we have my, so it's a noun phrase. In the predicate side, buys a book. The first word is buys. So buys is a verb, and it has a book, it's a phrase, so verb phrased. Under the noun phrase is, we have two words, my sister. So sister is the subject. So sister is called noun. So my is considered as determiner, while we have to make a one branch, while the sister is considered as noun. So on the other side, the predicate, we have to make one branch from the sentence. Buys is a verb, obviously, so it is a verb, but this is a one phrase because of the word a book. So buys a book, it is now considered as verb phrase. Under verb phrase, we have to verb phrase, we have to make a one branch. So buys is the first word, buys is verb, so buys is considered as verb, so we have to make another branch here. So a book, it is considered as a noun phrase because book is a noun. So under the noun phrase, we have to make a one branch again. A is considered as a determiner, while book is considered as a noun. So in our sentence, my sister buys a book, this is our tree diagram in constituent. So we have another example here. The happy linguist make a diagram. So the process is just the same with the first example that I have given to you. You have to identify first which one is the subject and which one is the predicate. And after determining which one is the one, you have to break down who is making the action. Then it is just the same as what we've done in our first hierarchies of constructions. Hierarchy is the edifice of essentials from one stage to the other stage. It is an informal affiliation. The language is the bumpy construction of hierarchy. So why follow the hierarchy? Hierarchy is very much significant in the direction of the unrelenting development in learning anything. For example, syntax identifies the process or set of laws to unite the word. The other example is that syntax is constrained by articulate our own thoughts. So there are types of hierarchy in the language. So we have 6 types of hierarchy of language. So first one is the phonology, morphology, lexical, syntax, semantics, and pragmatic. Sentence pattern is the arrangement of words. This arrangement needs to be in grammatically correct structure. It means the placement of verb and noun should be correct to form a meaningful sentence. So we have the basic sentence pattern. First, the subject plus verb, the subject plus verb plus object. The third one is the subject plus verb plus adjective, the subject plus verb and adverb, the subject plus verb plus noun. So, declarative sentence pattern. A sentence must express a complete thought. It must also have both a subject and a predicate. Does not need an answer. Is punctuated with a period. Example, the old man answered the phone. Normal order. Is the subject first followed by the predicate. Monotonous and uninteresting. Examples, my friend gave me a book. I enjoyed reading a book. Inverted order. We can put the subject after the verb or place it at the end of a sentence. Interrogative sentence pattern is generally inverted order. Sometimes interrogative sentence pattern starts with a verb. Often it begins with an adverb which is used to answer the questions. Example, did you bring books? Start with a verb. Where did you buy this shirt? Start with the adverb. Imperative and exclamatory sentence pattern. Imperative are used to give commands or make requests. Example, give me some water. Exclamatory, the subject is seldom expressed, used to convey strong feelings. Example, open the door now.
So that would be all. Thank you.